What you're seeing right now is not actually Fnaf 2. It's a recreation I made from scratch, as accurate to the original game as possible. And today, I'm going to show you how I made it. It's all made inside of Godot, written in GD script, and the only things taken directly from the original are the textures and the sounds. There's a lot of interesting things that go on behind the scenes, and it was really cool figuring out how Scott designed this game. But before we begin, I want to give a disclaimer. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not going to publish or share this project with anyone. I own the original game and decompiled it myself. I don't condone anyone attempting to copy or distribute games that they don't own. And lastly, this is not a tutorial. I repeat, this is not a tutorial. You will not be able to follow along with this video. Also, you may have noticed that my voice sounds a little different now. Basically, I'm missing some teeth, so please don't make fun of me in the comments. With all of that being said, here's how I made this thing. A lot of people might not know this, but the first 7 Fnaf games are not actually 3D. They're all 2D games made up of pre-rendered graphics. So I imported all of the textures and audio from the original game. That way, I won't have to go back and forth between Godot and my file manager the whole time. I started out by placing the office sprite in all of its frames, but when I hit play, it didn't look right. So I went and did my setup ritual that I do for every project. Fnaf 2 has a weird aspect ratio with a width of 1024 and a height of 768. Once I got everything set up, I started with the camera panning. In the original game, invisible boxes are used to pan the camera when your mouse goes over it. So I did something similar in Godot using collision shapes. In order to save time, I coded everything super fast and didn't really worry about how bad it was. So please do not try to replicate any code I write in this video. Once I got that working, I added the vent lights, which simply changed the frame of the office. I added the hallway light, which also just changes the frame of the office. I added the desk to fill in that empty spot on the floor. And I added the nose honk. Yes, the game is now playable. You may notice that everything is looking a little flat. That's because Fnaf 2 uses a perspective shader that warps the pixels to make it look more 3D. But that causes an issue. The pixels get shifted, but the mouse detectors don't. So to fix it, I have to adjust the placement of the collisions. And apparently, in the original game, you can use the vent light when your mouse isn't on the button. So I did that in my version too. Now it's already starting to look like Fnaf 2. I even made it stretch to fit the whole screen just like the original. Next, I worked on adding the mask. When you equip the mask, an animated sprite appears to show the mask going down. Then, it swaps out for a larger sprite which sways back and forth. In the original game, it uses a path movement feature, which is this black blob. So I can't really copy this one-to-one, but I can do the best I can using a Path 2D node. I've never really used this node before, so I did struggle a bit, but I eventually got it set up correctly. I then just scribbled an infinity symbol a bunch of times in order to create some slight fluctuations, like the original game does. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. The mask uses a box to detect the mouse, which lets you put it on. But taking off the mask uses a separate box, used to drop both the mask and the camera. There's also a large box above everything, and you have to put your mouse inside of this box before being able to put on or take off the mask again, which, funnily enough, doesn't cover the size of the screen. So after a bit of rushed coding, I now got the mask working. Then I made it so you can flip up and down the camera. There's a variable called viewing, which is a number set to the room you're looking to on the camera. It's set to 0 when you're not using the camera, so I can use that to prevent using the mask and the camera at the same time. Well, kind of. In the real game, if you flip up the camera then use the mask very quickly, you can use both at the same time. So I carried that bug over to my game. These are important details, guys. Next is making the actual camera. The real game uses one sprite containing every image for the camera and office. But I did the right thing and made an organized list. Once I got all of the images for the camera footage, I started making the interface. I brought Balloon Boy and Toy Freddy into the office to help with aligning the buttons to match the original. Then I put a label on each one. Now I just need to show the interface once the camera flips up to make it look like you're opening the camera. There's a few adjustments I had to make, such as making sure you can't interact with the office while the camera is up, and hiding the red and white buttons while the camera is open. Now it's time to actually make the cameras work. I applied a button group to every camera button, so you can only use one at a time. I added the text to tell you the name of the camera, and I made a dictionary to set the texture of the camera based on the camera number you're viewing. But now I have to fix the positions for the camera sprite. Cameras 1 through 6 are all square, so they don't move, while all the other cameras slowly move left and right. For this, I made an invisible object that moves left and right with an animation player, and I made the camera sprite follow it while the camera number is above 6.
Why is this not working? So confused!
I eventually got it to work. Next, I got distracted with something else. I noticed in the real game that sometimes the camera arrow isn't visible with the camera up, but sometimes it is. Well, turns out if you keep your mouse near the bottom of the screen, the camera arrow will disappear, but if you move your mouse up quickly, then it won't disappear. Also, apparently the arrows only appear again once you move your mouse up. Whatever was happening, I made sure to do the same in my version. Now, where was I? Oh right, adding important features. Next up is getting the flashlight to work on the cameras and showing where the animatronics are. For that, I made a variable to keep track of everyone's position, and I just threw together a huge if-else block to set the frame of the camera. Not ideal, but now our trusty cameras are up and running. And I made sure to prioritize certain animatronics over other ones, because it's way more important that you know Balloon Boy is in the vent than Withered Bonnie. Now of course, Mangle is special. Instead of her appearing on the cameras like everyone else, she sometimes appears as a separate sprite on top of the camera sprite. To make it easier, I switched the camera panning to move the actual camera instead of the camera sprite, if that makes any sense. That way, I don't have to set Mangle's position relative to the camera sprite.
Oh, it's working! Oh, what?
Now the real game never changes Mangle's position. Instead, Scott used some weird empty space thing that doesn't show in Mangle's textures. But if I delete one of the frames, then it moves Mangle to the correct position, and I can use that to place Mangle correctly in my version. Now, we can see Mangle on the cameras. I then went on to spruce up the camera with some effects. The static uses an add blending mode, and for some reason it gets stronger when you're looking at the puppet. There's also some white lines moving down the screen, and a red blinking dot to let you know that this camera is legit. Now it's finally time to bring the animatronics to life. I'll start with Toy Chica, since she's probably the simplest character in this game. Every 5 seconds, the game will roll a random number from 1 to 20 and check if it's less than or equal to Toy Chica's AI. As long as Toy Bonnie isn't on the stage, then she'll be cued to move. Then, it will look at her current position, and simply change the position to the room she needs to go to. And since I could only work with numbers, I used 101 for the office hallway, and 200 for the office vent. She'll start out on the stage, then move to the main hall, and then the other hall, and it's worth noting that when she's entering or leaving the office hallway, then she'll wait for you to turn off the light. Then she'll move to party room 1, the left vent, and then the office vent. And funnily enough, you can just watch her pop into existence in the vent. But now, she's in attack mode. Once you put on the mask, a counter will go up by 1 every second, and it will reset if you take your mask off. Once this counter reaches 5, she'll leave back to the main hall. She also has a 1 in 10 chance every second to leave early. Now there will also be a kill counter that goes up by 1 every second. If this counter is greater than 5 and you look at the cameras, then she'll get you. That doesn't mean she jump scared you, but she's just in her kill state, which I'll get into later. There's just one thing left to add, which is the stun timer. It's pretty simple. If you shine the light on Toy Chica on the cameras, and she's not on the stage, then she'll get stunned for 400 frames. And if you shine the light on her in the hall, then she'll get stunned for 40 frames. She's unable to move while the stun timer is active, but if she's queued to move, then she'll move the moment the stun timer ends. And that's Toy Chica complete. I don't mind being stuck in a building with Toy Chica trying to get me the whole night, but we have 10 more animatronics to go, and they all have wildly different mechanics despite what you may think. So the next one I'll work on is Toy Freddy. Making his AI took a few hours, but thankfully it shouldn't take that long for the rest of the animatronics, since they reuse a lot of the code that makes them work. Toy Freddy has a short path to the office. He starts on the stage and waits for everyone else to leave, then moves to the game area, and then the hallway. He uses the same stun timers and stuff that Toy Chica does. Next, he'll move right up to the doorway of your office. This is attack phase 1. If you put on your mask, he has a 1 in 10 chance every second to leave back to the stage. But if he's cued to move again and the camera is open, then he'll enter attack phase 2. Now he's inside the office, and he will force the camera down on 10-second intervals. When Toy Freddy is in the office, he uses a separate sprite overlaid over the office sprite, so I gotta make it visible when he's in the office. Also, when someone is in the office, that means we're in danger mode. I'm unable to use the cameras or the hallway light, and if I put on the mask, then I'm unable to take it off. Next, I got to work on making the flickering lights. So, flashing light warning for the rest of the video. Once you enter danger mode, a number will start going up by 1 every frame while the light flickers. Once it reaches 200, the whole screen goes black. And once it reaches 300, that's when Toy Freddy will choose to either get you or leave. He'll get you if you don't put on your mask fast enough, or if you don't put on your mask at all, and he'll mysteriously disappear. On night 1, it gives you 100 frames to put on the mask in time, but this time decreases each night. But if you do put on your mask in time, then he'll leave back to the show stage and be stunned for 500 frames divided by the night. There's also another way Toy Freddy can get you. If you've been in the cameras for 20 seconds minus the current night times 2, then he'll get you once he enters the office. So basically, you should be paying attention instead of always being on your dang camera. One more thing, if Toy Freddy got you, you can still lure him away. Just put on your mask, and every second there's a 1 in 10 chance for him to leave back to the stage. This will also stun him for 500 frames. The next animatronic I made was Freddy, and I figured it would be easy since he basically works the same as Toy Freddy. And I was right, but there are some slight differences to how Toy Freddy works. First, Freddy is unable to move while you're looking at him on the cameras, but the moment you switch to another camera, he will move, as long as he isn't stunned by the light. But the light doesn't stun him in the parts and service room. He also has a split path. From party room 3, he has a 50-50 chance to move to either the hall or the office doorway. Once he reaches the doorway, you can lure him away with the mask. But instead of it being a 1 in 10 chance for him to leave every second, he's guaranteed to leave to party room 3 the next time he's cued to move. And he'll be stunned for 5,000 frames minus 500 times the current night. When he enters the office, instead of a sprite appearing over the office, it instead changes the actual frame of the office sprite. So funnily enough, you can press the lights for the vent and Freddy will vanish. The rest of his mechanics work the same as Toy Freddy. It is worth mentioning that if you lure him away by successfully using your mask, he will go back to the parts and service room. But if you lure him away after he's already got you, then he'll go back to the hall. The next animatronic I made was Bonnie, and this was the easiest one so far, since he works basically the same as Freddy. All I did was copy and paste Freddy's code, and then tweak it a bit. But it still took a long time, since I thoroughly reviewed the code of the original to make sure everything was perfect. He does have a few differences from Freddy though. One, he doesn't have a split path, and he will go straight for the left vent every time. 2, you can't lure him away with your mask before he gets into the office. And 3, he never goes back to the parts and service room. I then made Chica, which was once again the easiest one so far. I literally just copied and pasted Bonnie's code, changed the word Bonnie to Chica, and changed the movement path. The only nuance is that she waits for Bonnie to leave until moving. This is also the first animatronic I've made that doesn't appear in the office hallway. So the next animatronic I made was Mangle, and I swear, Mangle is by far the weirdest animatronic in this game. So when Mangle moves throughout the building, she is unable to move if you're looking at her on the camera, but if she's cued to move, then she'll wait until the moment you switch the camera or drop the monitor. She also can't move if you're using the hall flashlight for some reason. Regardless of where she's at in the building, she'll wait for you to turn off the light until moving. She also gets stunned by the light, but for some reason, the only camera that doesn't stun her is the prize corner. When she reaches party room 2, she has a 50-50 chance to either go to party room 1 or the vent. If she goes to party room 1, then she'll be awkwardly positioned mostly off screen, but from here, she will go back to party room 2. Her movement path is the longest in the game, but only the first time since she gets sent back to the main hall after leaving the office. Her attack phase is different from Toy Chica's. Once she's queued to move in the vent, she'll wait for you to lift up the camera and then move into the office vent. From here, you can use the mask to send her away, which works the same as it does for Toy Chica. But if you lift up the camera again, then she'll enter the office. The sprite for her in the office is actually the same sprite used for her on the cameras. It's just set to show when the camera is down and you're not in danger mode. I'll get more into Mangle's office phase later. I decided to give myself a break by making Balloon Boy. His movement path to the office looks like this, but you can only see him in the game area in the left vent. All of the other cameras don't have a render with Balloon Boy in it, so I made it print his position in the console. He's the only animatronic besides Golden Freddy that doesn't get stunned by the flashlight. His attack phase works the same as Mangle, where he can only enter the office vent if you've got the camera up. Using the mask will send him back to the game area, but if you lift up the camera, he'll enter the office. His office sprite is set to appear while the cameras are down and you're not in danger mode. He's supposed to disable all of the lights from working, but I didn't make that yet and I'm just going to procrastinate. For now, let's settle with the idea that Balloon Boy is a good guy. The next animatronic I made was Foxy. Foxy has the shortest path in the game. He starts in the parts and service room, moves to the hall, and then the office. He has movement checks every 5 seconds just like everyone else, but the formula to determine if he should be queued to move is different. Foxy's AI is capped at 17, so if this D value ever reaches 4, then you're in danger of Foxy getting you. Your job is to keep this D value low enough. This D value will increase by 1 every second as long as you're not in danger mode. It will also increase by an extra 1 every second if you put your mask on and nobody's in the vents. While he's in the parts and service room, you can decrease the D value by 1 by shining the light in the hall on 0.5 second intervals. But this isn't really effective, so don't even try. Once he moves into the hall, his D value will get reset to 0. But now your flashlight is much more powerful. Using the light will set the D value right back to 0, and it also stuns him for 50 frames. In order to send him back to the parts and service room, you have to use the light on him for a total of 100 times the night number frames, and it helps that it still counts as the hall light being on for a while after you've turned off the light. Once you've done that, he'll go back as soon as he's not stunned anymore, and then he'll get stunned again for 500 to 999 frames. But on the other hand, if you let the D value get too high and he succeeds in one of his 5-second intervals, then he'll get you. You can see Foxy in the hall alongside Bonnie and Mangle, but I guess Scott gave up making renders for everyone else, because the other animatronics will completely cover up Foxy, making it look like he's not there, but flashing them will still count as flashing Foxy. There's also another strange quirk where Foxy can't go back if you're using the lights on the cameras, but you shouldn't have to worry about this affecting regular gameplay. Now, I've been procrastinating Toy Bonnie this whole time, so that's why I'm going to go ahead and make the puppet. First, I had to make the music box mechanic, so I just copied one of the camera buttons and changed it up a bit. And for the circle counter, I used an animated sprite. I then made them only appear when you switch to camera 11. The way the music box works is simple. Its value starts at 2000, and while you're not pressing the button, then the value will go down every 3 frames. It goes down by a larger amount as the game progresses, like on night 6 and 7, it goes down by 6. While you're pressing the button, then the value goes up by 5 every frame. Now the circle counter only has 21 textures to show the value that ranges from 0 to 2000. Scott didn't have to code this part since ClickTeam uses a built-in counter object that does the work for you. So my solution was to divide the value by 95.24 and round it. That seemed to work for now, but I did go on to fix this later. I then went on to make Puppet's AI. He's the fastest animatronic in the game, moving every second, and he's also slightly more likely to move than everyone else. But Puppet has a unique mechanic where he has multiple stages of progress in one camera, being camera 11. So for that, I used a global variable to keep track of that stage. His stage will progress once the music box fully unwinds, but you can keep him in the box by shining the light and winding back up the music box, since he can't move while you're shining the light at him. But once he makes it out of the box, then winding up the music won't stop him anymore. Now he'll start approaching your location rapidly. He even has a split path at the main hall, where he can choose to go down either the left side or the right side of the party rooms. But once he makes it to the office, then he has a 1 in 10 chance every second to get you. Now Puppet has another mechanic that lets you actually see him on the cameras. If you're watching the camera he's in and start flickering the light, then sometimes you can catch a glimpse of him. Basically, every time the light goes off, there's about a 1 in 50 chance for an image of the puppet to appear for a single frame. And for some reason, it actually changes the texture of the static to show the puppet. There's also a super rare one that basically requires you to break your control key and your arm by flickering for a very long time, if you're not lucky. So there's just one more animatronic left, and that is Toy Bonnie. Wait, actually no, there's 2 animatronics left. So I'll go ahead and make Golden Freddy next. Golden Freddy is by far the simplest animatronic in this game. Every second that the hall light is on, a random number from 0 to 9 will be rolled, and if it's equal to 1, then Golden Freddy will be in the hall. If you shine the hall and see Golden Freddy, then an exposure counter will go up by 1 every frame, and when it's greater than 100, he'll get you. He works differently in the office. Every 5 seconds, he has an AI and 20 chance to appear in the office as long as you have the camera up. And when he's in the office, he'll go away once you put on the mask, but he'll get you if you lift up the camera or shine the light in the hall. Now in the original game, Golden Freddy is simply deleted and he uses a special transition property to fade out for 1.13 seconds. But in Godot, I just used a tween to change his modulate alpha property. That way, Golden Freddy will fade out every time he disappears. And now, it's finally time to make the Paperpal. In the real game, the Paperpal actually has an AI value just like all the other animatronics. It also has its own movement path, so that's what I did in my version as well. It starts in Party Room 4 and has an AI and 20 chance to move every 5 seconds. Once it's queued to move, it'll wait until you have the camera up and you're not looking at its camera. Then, it will appear in the office. The office sprite is just like all the other office sprites, where it disappears while you're in danger mode. It's also worth noting that flashing the Paperpal on the cameras will stun it for 50 frames. Next, I began working on the battery system. Okay fine, I'll make Toy Bonnie. So when Toy Bonnie appears at the office, he will glide from the right to the left while the lights flicker. Now what the game does is create a Toy Bonnie object relative to the desk. So what I had to do was drag in Toy Bonnie and calculate his starting position. I did my best to copy this position into Godot. Now the hardest part would be doing the gliding animation. This once again uses that janky path system in Click Team. Apparently, Toy Bonnie has a full animation for entering and leaving, but in the final game, it gets cut off early. I hid the mask and disabled the blackout to see what this animation looked like in game, and I did my best to copy it into Godot. And here is the final result. The next step was making Toy Bonnie's AI. He starts on the stage, then moves through the party rooms. Once he reaches the vent, he'll get stunned for 50 frames. When he's ready to move again, he'll wait for the camera to be down and the vent light to be off for him to move into the office vent. Now if you put on the mask, he has a 1 in 2 chance every 0.5 seconds to leave the vent. This puts you in danger mode and plays that animation I spent so much time making. And then, he leaves back to Party Room 3 and gets stunned for this many frames. Now what about him attacking? Well, when he enters the office vent, he gets stunned for 1000 frames minus the night number times 100. And when his stun timer is down, he'll get you once the cameras are up. So you can sometimes survive pulling up the cameras when Toy Bonnie is there. He also has a mechanic where he can leave early. If another animatronic like Toy Freddy is attacking in the office, then he has a 1 in 3 chance every second to leave back to Party Room 3, but he won't be stunned. So that's all of the animatronics' AI done, but I'm still not done with them. The next thing I needed to do was handle multiple animatronics attacking at once. So, in my version of the game, I'm using a separate script for each animatronic. This keeps it more organized and protects my head from hurting. But in the original game, the entire office section is just one giant script with 751 events. And yes, it hurts my head. Now the events run from top to bottom, and that determines the order that the animatronics attack. So for example, if Bonnie and Chica are both queued to move into the office, then Bonnie will attack first because he appears first in the code. Now in my version, all of the animatronics' AI is written inside a process function, which basically gets run every frame. And thankfully, Godot has a process priority property, say that 10 times fast, that allows you to set the order that these process functions run across scripts. So all I had to do was set Bonnie to go first, and then Chica. It worked, but I had to fix the blackout to make sure it resets when you open the camera. I then went to test it by adding Freddy and Toy Freddy outside the office. But interestingly, both Freddys didn't enter the office. Turns out they left the hall while Bonnie and Chica were attacking. I tested this in my version and the same thing happened as well. But anyways, the order goes Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, then Toy Freddy. Now what about the vent animatronics? What stops them from going into the vent at the same time? Well, nothing. They just totally go into the vent at the same time, and you can't tell because only one of them can show at a time. So, to put my game to the ultimate test, I placed everyone right outside the office and set all of their AI to the max. And what happened was total chaos. I was getting killed by certain animatronics for what seemed to be no reason, and I thought I had some bugs. But then I tested it in the original game, and it was also incomprehensible chaos, so I figured I was fine. Now that that's out of the way, there's still something else to do with the animatronics, and that's movement blackouts. So whenever you see an animatronic move on the camera, then static will appear with text saying signal interrupted. This works by setting a blackout variable before the animatronic moves, and for the next 9 frames, it will set the camera to be interrupted for 20 to 119 frames if you're looking at them. While the camera is interrupted, the static will be set to its strongest setting, the camera sprite will turn black, and Mangle will be hidden. The signal interrupted text also blinks using an animation. I tested it on Toy Bonnie first, but I had an issue where you could still see him move into the room for a split second before the camera got interrupted. I fixed it by sending a signal the moment the camera should get interrupted. That way, it doesn't have to wait for the next process. Now I experienced something weird when Toy Bonnie was in the right vent. Once he was ready to move, the signal got interrupted and it wouldn't stop until I switched cameras or stunned him with a flashlight. I thought this was a bug I needed to fix, but it turns out this also happens in the original game, so I'm not fixing it. The hall also has a movement blackout. I tested it on Toy Chica first. When she enters the hall, it sets a variable to disable the hall light for 300 frames. While it's disabled and you try to use the light, it will set the office to show this faint white light over it. It will also prevent Golden Freddy's exposure from going up. Now it's also worth mentioning that when most animatronics leave the hallway, it doesn't disable the light. But you can't see them leave anyway since they can only leave while the light is off. So with that, I went and added the camera and hallway blackouts to all of the animatronics with the power of copy and paste. But there are some slight nuances for some animatronics. When Toy Freddy moves closer to you in the hallway, it doesn't disable the lights. Foxy is programmed to cause a camera blackout when he moves, but it just doesn't for some reason. Foxy is also the only one to disable the lights when he leaves the hallway. Balloon Boy doesn't cause a camera blackout when he's leaving a camera, but he does when he's entering the camera. And I have no idea why, because he's programmed the same as everyone else in the real game. The Paperpal is programmed to black out the cameras, but it can't move while you're looking anyways. And lastly, the only animatronics that don't cause any blackouts are Golden Freddy and the puppet. Now I'm still not done with the animatronics. There's one more thing to do, and that's the jump scares. I started out by dragging in all of their animations, and they were all unordered for some reason, so it was kind of annoying. But they were all unordered the same way, so that helped a little. Now some of the animatronics will actually loop their animations back to a certain frame. So for that, I just duplicated their animation and deleted the frames at the beginning to make them loop. And not everyone attacks at the same speed. Some of their animations are at 30 FPS, some of them are at 24 FPS, and Foxy is the fastest, being 36 FPS. Now to make the jump scares work, it uses a variable called being attacked by, which gets set to a number 1 to 12 to determine who jump scares you. Well, except for 10 and 11 being nobody. Once the animation ends, or 40 frames have passed since some of them loop forever, then it will take you to a screen full of static. When I tested this in-game, it looked kind of off, and that's because in the original game, it will freeze for a little bit before switching to the static. But since Godot is so good, it just switches instantly. So to compensate, I just added a 0.08 second delay before switching, and that made it look a little better. While an animatronic is jump scaring you, you're unable to look around and you're unable to use the mask or camera. It will also force down the camera or mask if you have them open. But if you're opening the camera or putting on the mask and you get jump scared, then they'll just disappear. The screen also shakes while you're getting jump scared. The original game uses that path movement again, which I can't copy, so I just settled with this. It does give a nice effect while you're getting jump scared, but the screen doesn't shake if you're looking all the way to the left or right, so only sometimes it's a nice effect. So this whole time, whenever it says that an animatronic got you, that means they are cued to attack and are ready to jump scare you when certain conditions are met. So I'm going to go through each animatronic and tell you how they attack you once they reach this got you stage. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Toy Freddy will jump scare you once you lift down the camera or take off the mask. And they also have a 1 in 2 chance to jump scare you every second that you have the mask on. Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica will jump scare you once you lift down the camera, but Toy Bonnie can also jump scare you after 10 seconds of having the camera opened. Foxy will jump scare you on the next 10-second interval that you're not in danger mode, or the next time that you turn on the hall light. Puppet will just kill you instantly, and Golden Freddy will kill you after 1 second. Now while Mangle is in the office, that's actually her got you phase. Every second that the camera is up, there's a 1 in 20 chance for Mangle to enter kill mode, so that the next time you flip down the cameras, Mangle jump scares you. Something funny is that Mangle can actually hijack other people's jump scares. So if Toy Bonnie were to force the camera down to kill you, then you'll just see Toy Bonnie for a split second and then it will switch to Mangle. Now that the animatronics are done, all that's left is just a few basic mechanics. Next, I made the battery system. The mechanic itself is super simple. The battery level gets set to a certain number based on the current night, and while you're shining the light, it goes down by 1 every frame. Once it reaches 0, then your flashlight won't work anymore, but you can still use the vent lights just fine. The hardest part was getting this stupid GUI to work. Scott once again used a counter object that sets the texture of the battery based on the battery level, so I had to figure out this formula myself, which took forever because I'm that bad at math. But it seemed to work down to the last digit, and I used this new formula to go back and fix the music box counter to be more accurate. But that wasn't the most complex part of this battery icon. Once the battery level is 500 or less, then it starts blinking, and Scott used this weird thing called flash during 0.2. So basically, that means it blinks on and off at 0.2 second intervals, but if you put on the mask, it will hide the battery icon and then reset its blinking interval once you take it off. And for some reason, the flashlight text won't appear again. Once the battery level reaches 0, the battery icon disappears forever, like it was never there. Okay guys, the true horror of this game is the code. I just wrote 2 paragraphs about how I placed a battery icon on the screen, but we're almost done. Speaking of batteries, next I got to work making Balloon Boy actually disable the lights when he gets in your office. It was super easy, I just made it disable the flashlight in the vents. So next, I made the GUI for the time and stuff. To make the counter look super accurate to the original, I took the textures of the counter from the real game to use instead of an actual text label. And getting the night counter to work was super easy, it's literally just 1 line of code. Making the time was also easy, but I had some trouble with the counter. In the original game, Scott uses a counter object that converts images into digits, so if you set it to 12, then it will show 2 digits just fine. But my version didn't have such a whimsical thing. I was tired, so I literally just placed 2 numbers together to make 12 AM. Each hour lasts 70 seconds, and once it hits 6 AM, you die. Wait, no, I mean it takes you to the 6 AM screen. Now the original game will have the 6 AM screen fade in over everything, and that's because the 6 AM scene has a fade in effect set to 1.1 seconds. To make this work in Godot, I got it to take a screenshot of the game right before switching scenes, and then the 6 AM screen will take that screenshot and make it fade out. I used this technique back when I was remaking Fnaf 1, and it works perfectly. By the way, I didn't fully implement the 6 AM screen, so for now it's just a black screen that says 6 AM. And since we're on the UI, I went ahead and make this little hint telling you how to use the flashlight. It just appears on night 1, and goes away once you hold control for 100 frames. My next task was to finish up the cameras. I started with this warning icon that appears when the puppet's music box is about to run out. It's a looping animated sprite, which honestly I should have done for the battery, but whatever. Once the music box level reaches 400 or lower, it appears and starts blinking orange. Once it reaches 200 or lower, then it turns red and starts blinking like crazy. But it will disappear if you wind up the box again. It will also disappear forever once the puppet leaves the prize corner. There's also another warning icon that appears above the camera button. It works the same way, except it's bigger and only shows when the cameras are down. Next, I added these white lines that I like to call the blip flash. It's an animated sprite that gets cloned every time you open the camera, switch the cameras, and when the signal gets interrupted. And also, these lines are on the very top layer, meaning they go in front of literally everything. And the final touch I added to the cameras were these animated wires in the right vent, which, funnily enough, don't disappear when the signal gets interrupted. Oh, and also, I fixed the static to be more accurate. The final thing to add were the Easter eggs. So every time you view the office, a random number will be rolled from 0 to 999. If this number is 9, then JJ will appear under the desk, and she'll mysteriously disappear after Toy Bonnie does his attack. If the random number is 3, then an endoskeleton will appear in the left vent, and if it's less than or equal to 100, then Shadow Freddy will appear in the parts and service room if nobody else is there, and an endoskeleton will appear in the prize corner if the puppet has left the box. And both endoskeletons can appear at the same time. Finally, I added Shadow Bonnie, or RWQFSFASXE. Every time you lift down the cameras, there's a chance for him to appear. He'll go away once you shine the light, fading out in the same way Golden Freddy does. But if he's ever in the office for more than 4 seconds, then he will crash the game. The original game says it's a 1 in a million chance for him to appear, but according to an investigation by It's Taken, the real chance for him to appear is 1 in 16,384 due to a click team bug. So that's what I wrote in my version. And the game is finished. So I decided to celebrate by playing Night 5. I set the AI of the animatronics to Night 5 and gave it a run, praying that I wouldn't get jumpscared for no reason. And then there was a bug. And then I died to Bonnie. I thought he killed me for no reason, so I spent some time trying to fix it. But it turns out I was just bad at the game. But I did fix Mangle and then gave it another try. And then I lost to Balloon Boy. So I gave it another try, making sure to lock in this time. And then I died to Chica.
What did I die to? What did I die to?
And I thought this was a bug, so I tried to fix it. But once again, it turns out I was just bad at the game. So I gave it another try. And believe it or not, I actually beat it this time. I did have a close call with Chica, and I almost ran out of battery, but I still did it anyways. For some reason, the music box stopped unwinding at some point, but I'm not complaining. I just fixed it afterwards. Anyways, I'm going to leave my winning run as background footage for the rest of the video, which is about to end soon. Now, you may be wondering where Phone Guy is, and you might have noticed that I never mentioned any of the sounds for the game. And actually, I didn't add any sounds, so the whole game is completely quiet. I'm saving this for a future video. If you'd like to see me add sounds to the game, as well as everything else such as the title screen, minigames, dream sequences, and other things, then leave a comment letting me know. And also, I hid a golden toy Freddy somewhere in this video. If you saw him, then leave a comment as well. But that's all for this video. Until next time.
I love you, Toy Bonnie. I love you too, Toy Chica. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Hey guys, what's going on here? Nothing, nothing. Hey guys, have you subscribed to Speed TV yet? Oh, that sounds like a good idea, Mangle. Thank you. Yeah, Mangle, you have the best ideas.